My fellow codependency recovering besties, my fellow shadow work people on healing journeys, and all that good stuff. I don't even know. I was just given really terrible, horrible news, and I don't really have anyone to discuss it with. So this isn't going to be part of our regular podcast. This isn't obviously, it's not a YouTube short. This is just going to be maybe another playlist in the making. But it really just comes back to something I also feel like is really important for people who are going through codependency, who are going through generational dysfunction, and who are trying to navigate it either during or after. So without like really getting into it, I'll just give like a background story. And you could apply this to just me and my background and why I do this podcast and things like that. But so I was predominantly raised by my father's parents, his parents, my grandparents. My father has been a drug addict since he was like 13 years old. Drug addiction morphed into alcoholism, morphed into career criminal, morphed into just full blown terrible person at a very young age. And coming from, the 1940s or 50s in Brooklyn as immigrants, and as Catholics, it really compounded, you know, the doom that my grandparents would later, inflict on, their daughter, her children, and all the extended family in order to enable my father. And it got to a point that, the entire family basically fucked off. They disowned my grandparents and my father. Um, my aunt, my father's sister, she, to protect herself and her families was no contact from her parents and by proxy myself. But her and I, of course, we have a relationship now, which I very much cherish. But growing up in that dysfunction where my father's addiction and coddling him was the reality, nothing else was real. They didn't even acknowledge that he had an addiction. They wouldn't acknowledge that he was stealing from you, that anything was going on. And so my obviously grandparents old, get sick, they die, and trying to take care of them was really difficult as someone who was still in the throes of dysfunction and chaos and was trying to navigate it, trying to heal, just wasn't where I'm at presently. And I don't think I did a good job. I think I could have done better, but what else? Whatever, I don't care. And my father's addiction, because he lives there. He lives with my grandparents his whole life. He's never had a job, never had a car. My grandparents literally gave him money every week, thousands of dollars, put him up in hotels, rehabs, bailed him out of jail, bought him cars, bought him, tow truck companies for nothing. And, they never were able to acknowledge their son for the person he was, or that they were enabling him and doing the wrong thing. And it really culminated into, grandma died. And then when grandpa died, he made damn sure that everything was going to his son. Everything, basically. He didn't really acknowledge any dysfunction, trauma, chaos, abuse, addiction. He never really, even to his daughter, he never validated her, apologized to her, helped her out, and nothing. He was just always on his son's side. He was so fully in his own dysfunction, delusion, and I feel like being codependent, it can morph, your enabling can really turn into its own form of addiction. And it did with my grandparents. So, they had their house and in New York, and this is something I try to talk about. Sorry, this ripped. I tied it. In New York, when someone dies, even if they have a will, everything has to go to probate court, where the court systematically handles the will and distributes the assets after, all liens, debts, and other things have been paid once things have, settled out or whatever. So because my grandfather, he left the house to be sold at the time of his death. No one can keep it. He had 5 witnesses sign his fucking will. No one can contest it. So he had it in his will that the house is going to be sold, split in half. My aunt gets 50%, my dad gets 50%. Right? And it seems all right, normal. But when you really take into account how insane my father was and what he did to the family individually, collectively, generationally, like it's just unconscionable that he would stand to get 200, 300 fucking $1,000 in a lump sum, despite being a career criminal and an addict since you were 13, a horrible person to your wife and child. Your mother was dying from cancer, you're stealing her morphine and you're fighting the hospice nurses, like terrible insanity. And still my grandparents are, oh, don't, my son's just sick. I want you to get along with my son, my son, my son. Insanity. And so, the house needed to get sold. We come to terms with that, me and Aunt Donna, because we wanted to keep the house. We really wanted, if nothing else, if we wouldn't even get validation from my grandfather, if nothing else, we wanted to at least keep the property to have it in the family, what was left of it. And to maybe like do something with it, turn it into, a family home, turn it into a business opportunity, just keep it, just have something to show for the lifetime of insanity. And I think especially for Aunt Donna, because she was the daughter, even though my grandparents raised me predominantly, I forget that I'm not their daughter. I'm the granddaughter. And that was its own thing to come to terms with and like realize like, damn, they were really just, I was my dad's bastard that he fucked some immigrant once. And then he did it because my grandma was really racist and she didn't like colored people. My mom's Colombian. She didn't speak any English. So he was just a fucker, my dad. He really, it was just, so my grandparents just took care of me. They didn't actually identify me as like their child or that kind of role. They just like had me in their attic and like would throw me, Italian bread every once in a while. Whatever. We're past it. Getting past and accepting that we have to sell the house and my dad has to get 50%. At this point, father died, my grandfather died. My dad had to be forcibly removed from the house because he's fighting police. He's refusing to leave. He's like, give me the car. It's my car now. It's like, you don't even have a driver's license, bro. You don't even know how to pump gas. Like you have been an invalid since you were 13, since you were since the 60s. What are you going to do? In 2020, whatever year it was at this time. Like, what are you're gonna drive? He's out, he's not in reality, right? So the police had to come and remove him because we had to rent the house. Me and Aunt Donna, we wanted to keep the house so badly. So we were trying to figure out plans. We went there, we were trying to do a yard sale, trying to figure out, what do we gotta clean? We had to clean Grandpa's remains out of the carpet in one of the bedrooms before he rented it. So there was things to do and we're like, oh, we got to do this. We got to get ready. Insane. I know. And so we're doing all this stuff. And then, a plan becomes like, hey, her and I move into the house and deal with the mortgage. We'll deal with the taxes. We can do it together. And then that didn't happen. And then so we ended up renting it to this really fabulous young couple. They're farmers. And they rented it for a year and then they wanted to buy it. Okay, I guess, of all people to buy it, sure. They didn't get approved for a mortgage, not my fucking fault, right? And it was sucked because they did so many renovations to the house. They, redid all the floors, they redid the kitchen, they redid the bathrooms, they painted all the walls. They really made the house nice for an older house. It looked really nice. It was completely redone. And then, they had to move out. They moved somewhere else because they didn't want to renew the lease with us. They were upset that we didn't lower the price of the house. I don't know. It's on 5 acres in upstate New York, a beautiful ranch. I'm sorry, it's not $2. So Aunt Donna found another family to rent. It was, a husband and wife and 3 or 4 kids. And we made a contract. The rent is going to be for a year. And Don and I, we still had some family, some furniture from our grandparents that were in the house that we wanted to get. We just what are we supposed to do? None of us live in that state. Aunt Donna's in South Carolina. I'm in Missouri. Other cousins in Florida. Like, what are we gonna do? Get a U-Haul to bring fucking random ass shit that's just sentimental, just drag it around the country? I've done that personally at least 4 times. At 32, it's oh god, again? But I was willing to do it, and Aunt Donna was like, we'll put in the contract that we'll keep all of this stuff in the basement, in the corner, sectioned off, and that they'll allow us to come get it with, 24 hours notice. And I'm like, perfect. And, everyone signed it. They're doing the lease for a year, and then the year came and went in July, and they refused to leave. And it's like, excuse me, you have to leave. Your lease is up. So they tried to pull the squatters' rights thing. They just stayed. So me trying not to get fucking psychotic, I was like, I can't just fly to New York and fix this. With codependency, you want to just fix everything. And I knew this is a symptom of my codependency. I want to fix this for Aunt Donna, for me, for the family. What the fuck is that? For my grandparents who are dead and they didn't give a shit about me. You know what I mean? And so Aunt Donna ended up serving them or getting papers legally, I don't know. And then they left. But Aunt Donna called me today and delivered some really painful news. And honestly, last year, I knew this was going to happen. I had the worst gut feeling, but my healing journey has to include trusting my gut, listening to my intuition, hearing what my nervous system is really trying to say other than panic, fight or flight. Like, what is wrong? And I'm beating myself up, my friends. I'm so upset I didn't just get the stuff last year. I'm so upset. I'm beside myself because Aunt Donna called me today. She's like, honey, I gotta tell you about the house. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, what is it? And she said, so they finally left. And I'm like, okay, good. She said, but they destroyed the house. It was one of those, well, if I can't have it, you can't have it type of petty moves. They destroyed all the floors. They ripped up the floorboards. They ripped up the baseboard moldings. They ripped down pieces of the wall, windows, batten board siding. They flooded the basement. They had dogs just shitting all over the floor for, I guess, weeks. I have no idea. They just completely destroyed the house. And the neighbors that rented previously, that know my Aunt Donna, that, have known about the house for a couple of years before my grandparents died, they helped them a little bit with some, outdoor work. So when the woman who did most of the renovations came in the house to help Aunt Donna and the realtor just see what was what, she even was really shocked because all of her work, everything, they destroyed the entire house. The stairs to the attic and basement are destroyed. And, Aunt Donna's like, honey, all the furniture we kept there, everything is destroyed. It's just everything's in pieces. And she's like, I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't think you should come here for what? Like, because she knew I wanted to come there and get all this stuff. And she was just like, it's gone. She's like, everything's gone. And I'm just like, I guess it's a really good time to fucking practice radical acceptance, like I always fucking talk about, but like the shock. Because, it really felt like no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, no matter all the right things, the correct moves, the legal precedents you're following, the shit you get in writing, it just doesn't matter. And to navigate dysfunction and to become more resilient in your ability to adapt to chaos or dysfunction or mistreatment, you have to just accept it and let it go, to really just take it face value and just really just breathe. And what sucked was we had people that wanted to buy the house for, $600,000. Again, you have to pay off all the back taxes, all the mortgage that's owed, all the other loans, and then the legal fees, and then the funeral costs that are still fucking we owe. And then my aunt and my dad get 50%. So it's going to shake down to, maybe 200 grand that they get to split. Which again, I don't care about the money. I'm not in the will. I have nothing to do with it. It's just like the principle of how hard Aunt Donna and I tried, how hard we tried after they died, and trying with the legal stuff and throwing every cent of money and every bit of resource and every moment of concern at keeping this house. If not for my grandfather to honestly just completely bar us from doing anything, these fucking renters. And, I asked Aunt Donna, what about renters insurance? What about, are we taking them to court for breaking the contract? And Aunt Donna, I feel so bad because imagine being the sister. Imagine watching your brother, your younger brother, grow up into a preteen and then become a drug addict and then just destroy everything. Just completely squander the family fortune, whatever that was, this mystical thing that I keep hearing about. Or, all the things he just literally destroyed, set on fire, broke, sold, stole, gave away, the people he's hurt physically, psychologically, financially, and it's just for her to see that and then have her parents literally basically disown her because she was like bringing up that he's a drug addict, just so they could focus on enabling their son with no interruption. I can't imagine. And then you try to take care of your father and he just basically ignores you as he's dying. And then we have to clean his remains we have to scrub his damn remains with Brillo pads and Dawn dish soap out of the fucking shag carpet from the 70s, sobbing. And then, she's doing everything she can to pay the taxes, fly out there, meet the rental people, whatever. And all the people that she had lined up who wanted to buy the house before the renters who were waiting, every single one backed out. The house is a step above condemned. They destroyed the house. And Aunt Donna, she just sounded so broken on the phone. She just was like, I'm done. She's like, I can't even talk about it past this. This is like the last conversation I'll ever have about it. But she's like, I want to let you know. And I also said, I was like, Aunt Donna, maybe we should just let it go. Just let the fucking bank take it. I'm sorry you won't get anything, but then Dad won't get anything. I hate him so much. I hate the idea that he's going to make money out of this, And Aunt Donna, she's like, honey, I know, and I thank you, but the neighbors, the previous renters that renovated, have offered Aunt Donna to purchase the house in the winter when they get approved or when their mortgage shit clears. I don't even know. And up until then, Aunt Donna just has to pay the mortgage, just hold on to it, and they'll pay the back taxes and they'll do the upkeep on the yard and start, because it's 5 acres, and they'll start trying to clean up the inside because they want that house. And honestly, she was like, they'll give me a check every month that I'll use to pay for utilities and this and that, but I have to split whatever is left with your dad. And she's like, honey, I already agreed to it. It's happening. She's like, I just wanted, and it's so jarring. I feel like I'm gonna shit out my heart. I don't even know how else to put it, but and that, I guess that just comes to the main points, which is with addiction and with enabling and generational dysfunction, you can try as hard as you fucking want for 32 years. You could be Aunt Donna, do it for 60 years. You can do everything you can. You could put yourself tens of thousands of dollars into debt trying to pay to remedy people's mistakes after they have categorically and systematically and fundamentally fucked you over. Codependency is really going to make you still try. It's going to make you still hope and still want to do what you can. And I'm telling you right fucking now, my friend, if you get nothing else from any of my videos, is that you need to not. All that energy, all that trying needs to go into yourself and your own stuff. You can't fix it. You can't fix this. Just like I can't fix this. It's done. All of this has been without my consent, out of my control, despite everything that I've done for years, since before they've died, while they were dying, after they've died. And it's just, you have to let it go. Part of me wants to find out who these renters are and fly to New York and destroy them. But it's also like, you know what? Grandpa could have made sure this never would have happened a million times over. I cannot fix this. I cannot take on the generations of burden and hurt and angst within my little tiny little fucking body that's anemic and do something. I can't. I really can't. And, codependency is just the accepting of what it is, accepting the truth of the matter, of our story, what we've gone through, what we're experiencing. To accept that, I think, is also really hard because who likes how that sounds, the truth of it? And if you've gone through really hard times, you know what I mean. No one wants to, yeah, I've been abused. No one wants to know that about themselves or, the truth of it, to come to terms like this is the reality. It's a very, very hard sometimes to accept without getting, insane. And then I think too with codependency or just with dysfunction, which I'm realizing, throughout all this is, I love Aunt Donna. I will always be on her side no matter what. But being someone who was lied to about everything, growing up, I was gaslit that your dad's not a drug addict. What do you mean you can't find your glasses? Are you sure you even had glasses? I've always had glasses. Like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, you know, insanity, insanity, insanity. I won't even go into the other stuff, but like really just being brought up or being chronically told that your experiences are wrong, not truthful, what you're feeling is incorrect. Then when you're healing and you're on your own and trauma or triggering things happen, you almost feel like, is this person telling me the truth? Is there something else? Are they lying to me? Do I have, this fake illusion of reality put onto me because it's easier to placate me? Is this a way to control me or to make me react or respond in a certain way? Is this manipulate? It doesn't matter. Again, with that radical self-acceptance and that radical self just acceptance, not self, just the acceptance, it doesn't really matter. The feelings or this paranoia that I'm being not told the truth by people I'm experiencing life with, that's something I need to separate and realize, wow, that is, another thing that stresses me out while I'm already stressed, but this doubt. That's something to work on and another kind of, shadow work exercise, but I can't tonight because I honestly am just so exhausted. But I really just, I don't know, I've been thinking about that for a couple of hours that I really wanted just to share that. And it's a real thing that people that are healing or people who have gone through, you really have to just, you have to focus on yourself. You have to save yourself. You have to put it all into yourself because even if you do everything right, even if you try as hard as you can, you're up against such dysfunction. And it's not for you to fix, my friend. I'm telling you this because I care. And I wish someone would fucking tell me this shit. Oh my god. But I hope you find this useful. Thank you for joining me for this random Tuesday on a really thunderous night. For this, I just gotta get it out. And I appreciate you being a safe place for me to explore these depths and I would love it if you shared your thoughts or if you had similar experiences or if you can relate, definitely comment, definitely subscribe and follow. But otherwise, I really appreciate you and I will see you tomorrow for our scheduled episode of the Salt Circle where we talk about death, dying, and bereavement. All right, my friends. Remember, just focus it on you.